What's up, everybody? How is it going today? I am Penguin Rage. I'm Kyle, aka Penguin Rage, here live on Twitch as we are recording the first ever episode of the Games Reloaded podcast. What is the Games Reloaded podcast? Well, it's a industry trends about the video game industry, everything that's going on with news, games, topics, what we're playing, all that good stuff, along with special guests and more fun things planned for the future. Today, I'm hosting this with probably one of the regulars that'll be here most of the time as well, Professor B, a.k.a. Brian.
Hey, how's everyone doing? It's going well over here.
So everybody that's listening right now, we are going to be hosting the podcast on podcasting services everywhere, such as iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. So make sure you go check us out and subscribe on the various channels so you can listen to this with audio. Or on video on YouTube. Otherwise, we will be doing this live on Twitch as we record every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So shout out to everybody from the Twitch community that is hanging out with us in the chat right now as we record this very first episode of the Games Reloaded podcast. All right, Brian. Well, anyway, we got to get through the business. I know it's the first one, so everybody out there, fuck you. There's going to be problems. That's just how this shit goes, all right? So anyway, but offer your feedback, criticisms, that sort of thing. It's always good to have, but none of that more housekeeping business. We'll just get into it. So, Brian, what you up to? What you've been playing in the video game world?
As of lately, it's been the continuation of I just can't stop playing Destiny in any way whatsoever. So I'm still hopping onto that every once in a while. I was a little bit upset. There's finally Matt and I have a third guy that's decent enough to play along lines with us on Trials of Osiris, and so the last couple of weeks when that's been rolling around, we've been going pretty far on that and doing that a lot. But apparently Destiny has been having a bunch of glitches this whole week, and I just actually saw they announced something else. But earlier in the week, they announced that they canceled Trials of Osiris because no one was able to get into a match, apparently. People weren't being able to find opponents, basically. So they actually just canceled Trials of Osiris for the week. And I guess whatever error or glitch it was that was causing it for that was going to run into Iron Banner, which obviously is the other very highly competitive mode of Destiny. And they said that was canceled for the week. So the things that I was looking forward to doing on Destiny, which is a lot of times the PvP stuff beyond running like the raid and whatnot with a few people that I do every week, isn't happening. So I don't know how much I'll be playing of that. But otherwise, I played a little bit more of The Witcher. I tried to get back into it a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, just because it's one of those games that you go on for hours and hours and hours and get so into. I mean, I got my character up past like level 30 and everything. And if you take a few months off, then it's hard to jump back into it right away. I mean, I'm forgetting what some even controls were for the game. So I'll see if I end up going back to that or not. But otherwise, it'll probably be something like I'll do some more of the Uncharted 4 multiplayer, or actually try and play that campaign maybe a little bit more. But for the most part, that's been it.
Excellent. No, that's good. I'm kind of right there with you. It was kind of a weird week when it came to being able to play games, mainly because with E3 going on, obviously all of us were glued to the TVs on Sunday and Monday of last week, and then probably on Tuesday as well with Nintendo's conference. So that's kind of going to be what our topic and a lot of the news is going to revolve around this week. So yeah, with me, still playing a lot of that Overwatch, man. I'm enjoying Overwatch a lot. When I first started to get into it and playing it, it seemed simple in concept, very quick to be able to pick up and play and understand what you're doing once you just kind of learn the very basic game modes. But it's one of those, it digs its claws into you and it's addictive as fuck. I don't even really understand how. It's just the gameplay is so clean and smooth and the mechanics are great. The balance is pretty damn good with all the characters. And it's a game if you're playing with other people, which I've been playing with Silver K9, so shout out to Silver and to Derek as well. Recently, as it's been a lot of fun just hanging out and having a few drinks, and those guys are always great just jumping on there and doing that with them. So you really can't beat that.
That's been all the buzz all over the place.
No, I know Overwatch really did capture the internet. It's kind of crazy how Overwatch, Doom, and Uncharted all came out at the same time. So Overwatch has been my main game. I'm also, oh son of a bitch, is the internet causing problems?
your stream just went down on my end, but
Weird. I don't know. Anyway, I'll deal with that because we're still recording. But I don't know. It's and other than that, I really just played a little bit more of Uncharted 4 as I was going for some trophies, getting the collectibles, that sort of thing. And then beyond that, that's really been it. It's Overwatch over my life. And then I played a little bit more Doom. I'm like probably 75-80% of the way through Doom. Just hit a point where it seems, I don't know if I hit a glitch or something happened, but I kind of hit that stopping point where I don't know if I'm going to continue to go on. Doom is definitely a lot of fun and I'm enjoying it, but like I said, I think there's so many other games going on right now and more stuff to come that plus being a hectic week, I don't know if I'll hop back into it anytime soon.
It's fair, and your stream's back up on my end now, so it seems like it's okay.
Yeah, I just reset it. There it is, folks. There it is. The first episode as we record. We're going to have to deal with some technical issues here and there as it happens. So, because, it's given me some weird, I don't know why my internet, what would be eating at it. I don't know. Hopefully we're all right.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out as we go, right, kids? That's what we do. But, yeah.
But yeah, so the one game you're talking about there that is one that hasn't really interested me, but you and Colin Moriarty have talked about how you've enjoyed it to the most part, is Doom. It's not one that really has ever struck me as something I'd be interested in, but a few people that I have talked to that have played it seem to have enjoyed it quite a bit. And I thought Doom was more of a multiplayer game, but apparently it's, I guess, more of a single player game is what people what they're telling me.
Yeah, I didn't even touch the multiplayer in Doom. It is very classic Doom style, and it's very much a single player game. I mean, that's what Doom's known for. That's what honestly you should be playing it for. And it is a solid game. It's a lot of fun. It's chaotic, great heavy music. It's a lot of fun. And I'll just give a quick shout out here. I know we're still recording live, but everyone on Twitch, thank you for everybody tuning in with us as we are recording the first ever podcast, the Games Reloaded podcast. So these will be on podcasting services, as I mentioned earlier, later, but we are also live. So shout out to you guys in the chat saying hi. We'll open it up for questions and everything later on. I mean, with everything that you're playing though, Brian, has there been anything else that you've played recently or that you're going to dive back to, or anything in the near future that you're wanting to jump into that you've got pre-ordered, or on PSN, any games like that?
Like I said, I would ideally love to get back into The Witcher, because that was one that there's the big expansion that just came out for it, but there's a certain extent of like, I don't have unlimited time, and to try and get back into that game again would be something that would require a lot of time to do, and we'll have to just see how I feel about that. Like I said, the other one would be Uncharted, kind of to get into that multiplayer, because I didn't do much with that. But also, I mean, I told myself whenever I got it that I would have loved to actually platinum the game, but I haven't made too much progress with that, so we'll see. But otherwise, I mean, games coming out soon. I mean, I don't think there's really anything left this summer that I've kind of been thinking about. There's nothing else that I have pre-ordered or whatnot. So really nothing else on that front other than Overwatch is something that I think I would have liked to get into if I had the extra cash to pick it up right now. But
Right.
I still have Destiny. So in regards to a multiplayer, that's also why I haven't been head over heels wanting to jump into play it, because I have other things. I have Destiny, which has always been my, the go-to multiplayer for the last, what it's been, how long has the game been out now? Almost 2 years. But otherwise, yeah, really not much. What about yourself?
Well, I think you're forgetting about No Man's Sky. That was actually supposed to come out in June, but it got pushed to August. So we're going to actually be doing No Man's Sky in August, which I'm looking forward to a lot. I mean, whether that game's going to live up to expectations or not, it's hard to say, as hype is very high on that game. But I have seen it at conventions, and it looks beautiful. It looks like a very nice, chill, easygoing game. But where that's actually going to go and what that concept's going to look like in a worth your $60 and the time, and does it have legs to last? That'll honestly be the ultimate question. The other question that still remains is that game going to be in VR? As it seems perfect to be in VR, and it only makes sense. But, I mean, obviously they have not said anything about it just yet. So,
yeah, and did you see that interesting thing? And there's a lot of speculation that this is the reason why it actually got delayed. Maybe not on the front completely of coding, but it was actually they were fighting a lawsuit against someone has trademarked the word sky.
yeah.
And apparently it was a battle they've been going through for the last 3 months on trying to get the rights to actually call the game No Man's Sky because they got hit with a lawsuit. So apparently it's all good. They got through and there's no issue on that front. But I just couldn't believe that when I heard that that they were fighting a lawsuit because someone has trademarked the word sky.
And do you think Sky is the vodka company?
No, I don't know. Whenever Sky has 2 Y's, so I don't think that's actually it. But apparently I'm assuming it's probably a British company because No Man's Sky is in England, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're based in England, I believe. So I don't know. That type of shit, the politics and the getting all the politics and the lawyers involved and all that shit. That's where stuff gets a little out of hand and gets a little wacky. I mean, honestly, I could see that being a reason why it was delayed, but I think they would have been much more upfront about that. So I don't know if that's how truthful that is. And, he might have actually needed that time to make the game just that much more polished.
Yeah.
Or
by all means,
it could be that they're honestly trained to make sure it's working in VR. I don't know. They haven't said anything in that regard. So it's interesting, but it is what it is, and they'll get to where they got to do. But that's the big one coming out. Really, that's on my radar for the summer. And then you also can't forget about Lego Star Wars here. I think next week. To be honest with you, I think it's on the 28th or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I picked up a Star Wars game, a Lego game. Probably back. The last one I got was actually when the PS4, and the Xbox One came out.
Right.
And I don't know. I just couldn't really, I guess, get through it. I mean, I'm sure they're interesting, and a lot of people do like them. But for me, it kind of got repetitive and a little bit boring after a while. But I mean, that's just me.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Part of me is saying, oh, that actually would be kind of fun, nice, easygoing game during the summer. But then, of course, like you said, is it worth $60? How much legs is that actually going to have? I think that would be a fun game to stream here on Twitch for the viewers. But it is to what it is. So, let us know in the comments, though, everybody, here on Twitch. Also, after the show, anybody listen to it on YouTube or on podcasting services, let us know in the comment section or tweet at me, Penguin Rage Live on Twitter. And let me know what games you're currently playing and what you're going to be picking up this summer. You get No Man's Sky, which we're currently seeing on screen, or are you going to be picking up Lego Star Wars or anything else? The indie titles, the PSN titles. I haven't really kept my ear to the ground recently with everything that is going on with that. So let me know what your thoughts are there. But other than that, I think it's time we dive into the news. So, Brian, you ready to go into the news and that topic?
Yeah. I mean, I'm good to go.
All right. Well, we don't have a fun segue noise or fun thing to say or do yet, but we're going into the news. I think it's pretty obvious and easy right now anyway for everybody that it keeps in tune with the video game industry. This past week was E3. So all the news pretty much that we're going to be talking about are just announcements and everything coming out of E3 2016. We can kind of just go through by conference. We can kind of go through just kind of the main headlines and the major titles. There's a lot there to digest. For normal format of the podcast in the future, everybody, there will be more of a breakdown of topics of multiple news items. We list them out based on the news stories from the week. But this is just kind of just all-in-one E3. Here's everything that's hit us so far. So, I mean, obviously, we can just quickly touch on EA and Bethesda as they were the first two to go on the Sunday. EA's conference to me it wasn't even part of E3. They tried to do their own thing called EA Play, and it just I don't know. It just did not seem to fit.
It was EA that brought in all of the movie stars and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Like Snoop Dogg was there and
Yeah.
clearly high as fuck.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we'll touch on that in the topic of the show. But, um, you know, EA, the main thing coming out of EA was really disappointing because the only thing we really saw that shown of interest to me was Battlefield 1. The game looks awesome, looks good. It looks like Battlefield. It's what we expect. And then, you know, they did a live gameplay, almost like tournament, where they had many people there going into everything, showing off a large-scale battle, that sort of thing. And the game looks great. But I think a lot of people are really wanting to see Mass Effect, the new Mass Effect, and they really didn't say or show anything. They're just like, yep, 2017. And we're like, well, seriously, fuck me, but all right. And then
I mean,
Titanfall 2, I think, was a pretty big one as well. Titanfall 2, now coming to PS4 as well as Xbox One and I believe PC. It's more Titanfall. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it looks okay to me.
It's one that I enjoyed the first one. I mean, I got quite a bit of playtime out of it, but it was one of those that the player base of that game 3 or 4 weeks after it came out dropped 99% because everyone started feeling the exact same thing of that there's like 3 game modes to this and no campaign and nothing to mix up. So everyone just burned themselves out of it, and that was the end of it. Yeah. So with them adding in a little bit more content, and I think they're adding in like a single player campaign, I think that will pull some people in. Is it one that I'll get day one? I don't know. I'll probably wait to see what everyone else says about it, and it's got to be something that really sticks out and people are talking very highly of in order to kind of convince myself that, yeah, it's worth dropping the $60 or whatever on it. And just to go back on a second there too, when you were talking about Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm not necessarily upset that they didn't show off more of it, because there's a lot of times that developers nowadays are showing off things a little bit too early, and they're kind of lying actually in regards to what the game is going to look like. Cough, cough, Ubisoft a lot. So, I mean, sure, if it was a January 2017 game, then maybe it would have been a little bit more justified for it to come out. But if it's still more than a year off, if it's not going to be till fall of 2017, then, you know, I mean, they got plenty of other instances where they're going to be able to show off stuff. Let's not put anything out too early if it's really not ready to be shown.
Yeah, and honestly, I agree, but it's also honestly, that's one of their biggest IPs, one that everyone's hyping up and wanting so badly. And I know it's not coming until next year, but to me, they didn't show anything. Like, to me, they should have, even if it wasn't gameplay or revealing anything. Mass Effect is massive, and yeah, I really don't think it's going to take away from something as if you were to show a segment of The Last of Us or Uncharted, where that is, you know, more of a linear story. So I don't know. I don't know. To me, it just seems like they really missed out on an opportunity to do that. But I see their reasoning, and I see your reasoning as well. But even if it was just a quick 30-second teaser trailer.
Yeah, I know this is a topic that we'll talk more about later, but maybe this is tying into the whole idea that E3 just isn't quite the conference that it used to be. So maybe they're not putting as much of an emphasis on it anymore as they once did.
Yeah,
but I mean, we can talk about that more as it goes down the line.
Yeah, and honestly, it's hard to say because they have their reasons, and maybe the game's not as far along as we all were hoping, and maybe the game won't come out first half of next year. Maybe it's going to be holiday of 2017, or maybe it'll be 2018. I mean, it's a big game.
It'll be a holiday game, yeah.
It's a massive undertaking, obviously, and they don't want this game to bomb, so they got to take their time and do their sweet thing. But, I mean, between that and Titanfall and then Battlefield, they showed off all the sports games, what you kind of expect, NHL, Madden, FIFA, all that shit. You know, I think they showed off one of the... No, I'm thinking of Ubisoft. Yeah, I don't really know of anything else that really stands out to me from EA.
No, it was quite forgettable in my opinion, other than the Battlefield 1 trailer, which I think was even a trailer that had already been leaked or was already out a couple days before. Right. So,
yeah, they fucked themselves too when they had their conference. Somebody started streaming it early when they were doing rehearsals, and all the Titanfall news was shown. And I don't know, EA. This kind of comes back to our other topic, the main topic of the show, but to me, I don't know. It was a missed opportunity. I don't think they handled it as well as they could have, but then again, it's their first go at it.
Yep.
So moving on through the E3 conferences, though, next up was Bethesda. Once again, Bethesda didn't really come out of left field and show anything again that kind of swiped me off my feet. One can argue that the Skyrim remastered coming to PS4 and Xbox One is kind of that, but that was leaked early ahead of time, so that kind of surprise factor was gone. A lot of people are kind of like, well, I mean, is that even really necessary? And who knows? I mean, I think it's awesome. I'm going to play it. Everyone loves Skyrim. There's May in the chat, going haywire about Skyrim. So I think it'll sell well. I think it'll do well, and it'll hold people over until they actually come out with the next Elder Scrolls game, which is probably, shit, man, considering Fallout just came out last year, it's probably still another 2-3 years away.
I mean, was it, I think, the announcement that everyone really wanted? No, I think everyone wanted the new Elder Scrolls to be announced. Was it a nice thing for people to see? Yes, but even myself, I can guarantee I will not be buying it for $60 because I do not want to spend another $60 on Skyrim. I played it a ton on the PlayStation 3, and it's something that if I had a bunch of free time, yeah, I might sit down and have another playthrough on it. But is it worth $60? No, this is a game they should be releasing for $40.
Right. And I mean, and I don't think they announced a price on it anyway, so it very well might come in there at that price range, but I bet they'll milk it. It'll be $60. It'll come with all the DLC and the extra stuff. So I'll get it. I'll probably eat my life away playing it, and I'll enjoy it. I mean, it's simple as that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is what it is. I think the big thing that Bethesda was trying to push, though, at this conference was Dishonored 2. Dishonored 2 is clearly their big next title that they're trying to push. I didn't play the first one. I know it was well received. A lot of people really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people are really excited about this one. So I may worth checking it out. We'll see. So hopefully Bethesda can hook a boy up with the game so that we can stream it here for the audience. But, it is what it is. It looked good. It looked cool. I don't know if it's necessarily my type of game, but I don't know. Are you going to pick that up?
It's one of those that it'll depend upon what else has come out around it and how busy I am. If I'm looking for something to play, then maybe. And again, I mean, there was like The Witcher. Was that last year? Yeah, or was that the year before? Yeah, I think it was last year. Whenever when Witcher came out, and it was one of those that was completely off my radar. I had no intentions of purchasing, but after all these reviews were coming out, like a lot of people were saying it was a masterpiece and a very, very good game. And it was one of those that I was like, you know what? I have some time. It was over the summer. I was like, yeah, you know what? Why not? And I put the money down for it, and I do not regret it at all. That game was absolutely fantastic. So in regards to that, sure. Again, if it comes out and it's putting out amazing scores, and if I watch some people on Twitch and I'm impressed, then perhaps I will. But is it on my radar of for sure purchases? No, definitely not.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those where I'll probably sit back and wait to see, what people on Twitch are saying, what the reviews are saying, and make a judgment call at that point. Because like I said, I didn't play the first one. It's not blowing my socks off with excitement, but we'll check it out. We'll see what the world is. What do you guys in the chat think? Let me know. Then they also kind of came out with the big unveil of Quake and Prey. So there's Quake Championship, which I believe is only on PC. Very about competitive gaming, multiplayer competitive gaming. That esports kind of genre that's obviously a big deal now. So with the classic Quake feel that we know and love from back in the day. Not a big Quake guy myself, so it's not like this is going to be anything groundbreaking that's going to make me run out to the store and pick it up. But, to go along with that, it's one of those. We'll see how it is, and if people want it, then they'll enjoy it. I don't know. Not for me, probably.
Yeah, I no interest in it. I mean, I think it was before me. Before I was really into gaming a lot. I know it was a huge thing. I mean, I went to QuakeCon last year, but I didn't see a single person playing Quake. So it's something that I don't even have the slightest idea of really what it is, more or less. I mean, I know what it is, but no interest whatsoever. I mean, when it came across the screen, I was like, okay, whoever wants that can have it, but I'm not really that interested.
Yeah, no, and The other one they kind of brought out that people probably weren't expecting that was kind of a good surprise was Prey. So the new Prey. Once again, one I really can't talk on much other than everybody knows the series Prey. I've dabbled with it very briefly in the past, but I know it's a beloved franchise. I know it. People were kind of like, okay, this is take some balls to come out and just call it Prey. But the trailer definitely looked interesting. It looked beautiful, and it has that aesthetic and feel of fear. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. I think that title is probably obviously not anytime soon. It'll be a wait and see game on my end to really see how it's looking, what it hashes out to be like. Reviews, and probably watch it on Twitch and see what people are playing and if it'd be my type of game.
Yeah, I feel fairly similar about that. Again,
So.
I have no experience with any of the previous iterations of that series or whatnot. So again, if I have free time and it's coming out and blowing reviewers away, sure, I'll give it a shot or whatnot. But I'll probably, check it out on Twitch first and see what happens from there.
Yeah, and I think then really they just got into some DLC stuff, right, with Doom and Fallout. Part of me wants to go back to Fallout and try some of this DLC that they're rolling out, but then the other side of me is like, no, like you put in so much time already into that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of burning myself out on it.
Yep, exactly. And again, if it's always been a battle with myself, even once Fallout 4 came out, it was a case of I'm putting all this time into Fallout 4, but I can full-heartedly say that I enjoyed The Witcher tenfold more than Fallout. So it was one of those that if I have the free time and there's DLC for both, which there is the big expansion Blood and Wine that just came out for The Witcher. If I'm going to go back and play something more, it's going to be that one. So.
Yep. No, I think that's probably where a lot of people stand on that. But Fallout's still beloved, and I'm excited to see what the future of Fallout looks like. So we will see.
Yeah, I know there is a lot of people that would disagree with what I just said about The Witcher, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yep. No, shit. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Well, I think that pretty much sums up Bethesda and EA. So once we hit Monday now, that's been the main big day of E3, day zero, as they call it. So first conference out of the gate, and now we're getting into a bit more of the controversial stuff, the bigger stuff. So please, guys, in the chat, of course, let me know your thoughts, and people listening after the fact, hit it in the comments or on Twitter to let us know. So first off was Microsoft. A lot of stuff from the Microsoft camp leaked ahead of time. Obviously, one of that was the Xbox Scorpio. So a lot of people were expecting this big, powerful console announcement, but then right out of the gate, they actually came in with an Xbox One S. So the slim Xbox One, which looks good. It's got a great, sleek design to it.
The console looks gorgeous.
Finally put the fucking power supply in the fucking unit, so you don't have a fucking huge brick outside the stupid console, which is Jesus Christ. How the hell they couldn't fit that into the fat fucking box that is the Xbox One and the get-go, I don't even understand. But with that being said, the console looks great, nice and sleek, and it will have 4K output for video, like Netflix, Amazon, etc., as well as running 4K Blu-ray movies, which is kind of cool. I do enjoy that. Yep. But before I say anything, what are your thoughts on the Xbox One S? And the pricing, I believe they said $299 for a 500 gig version. But little did they tell you that the 500 gig version is not coming out until December. The only ones that they released for pre-order that's coming out in August are the 1 terabyte or the 1.5 terabyte and the 2 terabyte, which are much more expensive at about $399 and $449, I believe. I could have those prices wrong. I don't have them up in front of me. But it's not that $299 price that they showed at the press conference. So,
yeah, I mean, this was the Xbox One console that they should have released in 2013. Other than I understand if that would have been at the time, they wouldn't have had the 4K output with it. But this is the console that it finally has upgraded RAM in it, so it's got the RAM competing with the PlayStation. I think actually it's got 12 gigs, so it actually even has more. But just the overall design, I mean, it's slimmer. It's got that internal power supply, and oh my goodness, it can go vertical.
Yeah,
I still can't believe that I have this console that has its own mini Xbox One that has to be plugged into it, that has its own humming sound as it plays, the power supply. But that also, you can't even put it vertically. The way I have it set up now, it works out to be fine. But like, I know from times in the past in other places that I've been living, I had to put my consoles vertically because they wouldn't fit otherwise, and I just can't believe that was something that they didn't try and do, especially with. I mean, there was a lot of success with the Xbox 360, which was the cool thing, was that it was, it can go vertical and it can turn around and things like that. I just couldn't believe that was something that they didn't do from the get-go. So to me, this is the console that they should have released in 2013.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, this should have been the console they came out with. They're ditching the Kinect. There's not even a port for the Kinect on the back. So clearly that thing's fucking dead. So go sell it. Get rid of it while you still can. And then, like you said, it's just from a design standpoint, it looks much better. It's sleeker, and it just appears to be a much better console. Not even just from the power and the innards, because all that stuff really is the same. The inside of it is really the same, just now with the ability to output the 4K video. Not 4K gaming, just make sure everybody does know that, but the 4K video and 4K Blu-rays.
I'm not trying to stand here and people can make the argument of saying, oh, well, they couldn't have put this console out in the end of 2013 because the technology wasn't there. And I say, look at the PlayStation 4. So much slimmer, no power supply. Like, it was possible. They just didn't. Yeah,
if you take out the 4K output stuff, then totally. From just a design standpoint, totally. Especially when the PS4 is more powerful than the Xbox One. There was no reason that the components needed to have that big of a box. But, they were really going for the Kinect. They were going for the HDMI in and the HDMI out. They got extra stuff in there that they banked on that really didn't turn out.
That's a good question. Did they leave the HDMI in?
I believe so. I think if I think back of looking at the pictures of it, the only thing they removed was the Kinect port.
Okay, cool.
So, not a big deal. I think the console looks good. I think it's nice for people that haven't picked one up yet. Now is the time to do it. It's a great looking console and it'll run well. But, skipping ahead through the Xbox conference, and this is kind of a subtopic of the entire podcast, is at the very end, they acknowledged the Scorpio. And I wasn't expecting them to do this because this thing's not even a year away. It's over a year away, year and a half away. They didn't show the console. Which, ironically, if you go back to when the PS4 was first unveiled about the games and release time, they actually didn't show the PS4 console. And Sony got some flack for that. Like Major Nelson, I think, tweeted out saying, oh, I think this is probably the first time a console was unveiled without actually showing it. Well, funny thing is now they unveiled the Scorpio. And on stage, talk about it on stage. They did a pretty cool video about it, talking about it and how powerful it is. But they didn't show it. And they said holiday 2017, so over a year and a half away.
A long way off.
We will get into more of the details probably in a later time of Neo and the Scorpio and what this is and where we're going with the industry. But my bigger thing is, you literally came on the stage, said, hey, buy the Xbox One S. This is the better version. It's 4K output for video. It's slimmer, blah, blah, blah. Great price point is the way they did it at $299. And then literally an hour and a half later, they say, we have another Xbox coming in a year and a half. So as a consumer, does that make any sense whatsoever to go buy the Xbox One S? That's really my question. Because it really is like, if you have an Xbox, you already have an Xbox. So you really don't need the Xbox One S unless you truly want the 4K output, which you could trade in or sell your original Xbox, so it wouldn't cost you that much money. But for the new people wanting to dive on board, it's like, why buy this Xbox One S when you know it's pretty much going to be inferior in a year and a half?
Yeah, the tweet, I can't remember who it was that tweeted it out at the time, but it was something along the lines of like, Xbox just announced their new Xbox that had such a short lifespan that they announced the new Xbox to replace it in the same conference.
I think it was the CEO Kaz Hirai parody Twitter.
Kaz Hirai or whatever, yeah. I thought that was so funny. But it's so true. Which I kind of have two sides of how I'm looking at this, and that one, there's this side, like I just said, it's that what you were just talking about, that it just seems like okay, I get it. They need to announce a slim version because the Xbox One, the original Xbox One, was behind of what the PlayStation 4 was. Like I said, this is basically almost just catching up to the PlayStation 4 currently. And so I get why they have to do that. But it is very true. Then literally this same conference, they're saying, okay, here is the next console that's going to replace this current one. I mean, okay, replace might be the wrong word because all of the games will work across both. I understand that. And it's not like
I think it really comes down to how they're going to word this new console. Is it the next Xbox, or is this really only for people with 4K TVs? Is this really like a premium luxury item? It's probably going to cost $500-$600, if not more.
Yeah, that was the next point I was going to raise there, is that, well, then there is the other side to it of that. I see why they're doing it. I mean, like, we know PlayStation's going to do it at some point. It just wasn't announced at E3, and there's still rumors that it actually still might come out this year. They might just wait till a closer conference to announce it so that the sales of the current PlayStation don't go down. And I see it from the other perspective, because it's like, it's Phil Spencer, I believe, came out and made a statement. He's like, this console that's coming out next fall is going to be for the people that have 4K TVs and for the people that want to dish out these extra few $100s to see this. So I think they're being honest, and I can also see from their perspective of that they might try and market this to the side of that. It's like, okay, are you not going to want to spend $800? That's what I think the new one's going to have to cost if it's going to have the graphics that they're talking about. If you don't have a 4K TV, well, then there's really no point in getting it, because you're still going to get 1080p. I mean, usually 30 or 60 frames per second on this Xbox One S. And sure, maybe you'd get things that will look a little bit nicer graphics wise on the Scorpio. I mean, I have no doubts that that's going to be the case. But I think the way they got to market it is that they got to be honest, and they got to just tell people that if you're not going to be willing to drop the $800 on this new console, and you don't have a 4K TV, like I said, I think straight up, Phil Spencer said something like, if you don't have a 4K TV, this isn't for you. And
no, I agree. And I mean, that's, this might actually, we might just make this the topic of the show, Brian, because, then you could pull in the Neo into this, right? So it seems like they're segmenting their own audience in many different ways here, because like you said, we don't know how they're going to market this. All they showed was that one video and said that this is basically the most powerful console ever, 6 teraflops that. He's like, but we don't know what that means. We don't know what the cost is. We don't really know what the timing is. It's holiday 2017. Is that going to slip? I mean, it's going to be backwards compatible with Xbox One, so it's supposed to be seamless across the board. But does that mean it's just backwards compatible where old games will now run on it, and there will be only games that run on the Scorpio that not on the Xbox One?
No, I think they were pretty upfront with that, of that every game that comes out that works in the Scorpio will work on the older consoles.
Well, I don't know. I don't think they said that. That was what was in the Sony leaked documents for the Neo.
No, they said that in the conference.
Okay, well,
yeah, they were very upfront of that. This is just, the Scorpio will be a console that's added to the Xbox One family, and every game that comes out for it will be compatible with the previous versions.
Okay, well, but even then, it just I don't understand. It's hard to say, because also Sony's kind of in the same predicament or opportunity, however you want to put it. And
yeah, I don't think Microsoft did the wrong thing. I think the only thing that
I think it was too early. I think
that's what I was going to say, is that I don't think they're doing the wrong thing. I think they announced it way too early. This should have been E3 next year.
I honestly think they saw that Sony had their documents leaked.
They wanted to get it before Sony.
Sony was supposed to come out with it this year. It's going to release this year, apparently. And they're like, oh shit, we're scrambling, we're making this beast thing, it's nowhere ready, but we want to one-up Sony. We're trying to make it more powerful than Sony based on their specs. And they came out the gate thinking that, oh, this is the right thing to do, when in reality, from what I had heard, and I think rumors online, Sony was supposed to talk about the Neo. And then, I don't know, Sony was going to drop the price to show a slimline PS4 as well. But then again, I don't know. I mean, maybe Sony's just reacting to what the community online's saying, and maybe what they're seeing from Microsoft, and they're going to sit on their hands and wait, because Sony's still killing it from a sales perspective. I mean, they're still destroying Microsoft every month in the NPD, not just with hardware, but also software sales. So really, why do anything when it's at a good price point now of, is it $299 for the PS4, or is it $349? $349 for the PS4?
Yeah.
That's, I mean, still a solid price. Comes with games, all that good stuff. I mean, honestly, I don't. Sony must have caught on to something here to where they realize E3 is not the time to talk about this, and whether they come out with a Neo this year or not, that's a different question.
What I think it partially is, and I think this is maybe not the best for the consumers, but it's smart on Sony's part, and I don't blame them, is that they realize that if they announce a new slim console, the current sales of their console will plummet.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is something that they might still announce a Neo or a slim PS4 that could come out in October, but they might announce it a month before.
I think it'll be longer than that. I think, if anything, they'll announce it in like August or September at Gamescom. Or they'll just do a standalone thing. I mean, who knows what they're going to do. Or they're going back to the drawing board here and make it more powerful so Microsoft can't say theirs is the most powerful console. I mean, it really is a dick measuring contest at this point.
Yeah.
Because Sony's in the driver's seat. They've owned this generation in every different aspect. And, I mean, we haven't even got into Sony's press conference yet, but we can talk about whose conference you kind of took the cake for the best conference. I mean, whether you want to categorize that or not, we can get into that later. But, Sony doesn't need to really do anything. That's the real most important thing, is just remain consistent. Come out with the games, keep the content rolling, and then bring out a higher-end console that, yes, is 4K compatible, yes, is a bigger hard drive, yes, runs games maybe smoother, higher frame rate at 4K resolution. It's also better for VR. And you come out with that and be like, hey, we dropped the price on the regular PS4. It's $250 or whatever it is. And this 4K one is a luxury item. It says all games are going to be on both, much like what Xbox said, where games are going to run on both. And it's a luxury item for people with 4K TVs and wanting a more streamlined experience on VR. I mean, it's hard to market. It's hard to understand what they're going to do, but I think Sony's sitting back and being patient, because that's what they've done all generation and not made mistakes.
Yep, exactly. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think Microsoft has made the mistake in that they are doing this new console. I think the only mistake was that they announced it too early.
Yeah, I think it's too early, because now also they just told Sony what their game plan is when it's 2 years away almost. So Sony can literally go back and reconfigure things. I mean, who knows what they're going to do? Hell, Sony could very well just simply come out next year, next E3, at PSX, I don't know, and announce the PlayStation 5. Skip this whole boosted 4.5 Neo bullshit, just because here's the thing. It's an optics thing. You come out and you announce PlayStation 5.
I disagree completely.
No, hold on. You announce PlayStation 5, but it still has the same concept of what these other consoles are doing, where it's like, well, it's backwards compatible, so it's playing all the other games. Developers will release on both PS4 and PS5.
It's just a PS4.5 from what you just described.
It is, but it isn't. If they just, it's an optics thing.
The next PlayStation 5 will need to be is a console that can go 4 or 5 times leaps and jumps ahead of what the current PS4 can do.
And maybe that's what they'll do.
But Kyle, if they announce it as a PS5, I can even tell you myself, if they went at PSX this year and they said the PlayStation 5 is coming out next fall, but all games on the PS5 are still going to work on the PS4, I don't even think I would get one. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot if they do that. The reason why the PS4 has been doing so well, if you look historically in any other launch that's gone on in the past, the console that has been successful off of the launch gate and has been the leading console for almost the majority of the time is because they got the traction at the beginning. Now, I know the Xbox 360
I agree. I mean,
PS3
I'm just
are a little bit different in that regards, but
I'm just speaking out of my ass, just really for the topic of conversation.
Sure.
I wouldn't want that either. Trust me, I would much rather Sony come out and talk about the Neo or the 4.5 or the PS4K, whatever you want to call it, much like Microsoft did, closer to the release time, not 2 years in advance. Just like DJ Jackson just said in the chat, hey DJ, the PS4 only came out in 2013. So the thing's only not even 3 years old, right? It'll be 3 years old this November. And there's no point in the PS5. But then that's where the question does come in. Do we need these midlife cycle consoles? Do we need the Scorpio Xbox? Do we need
the way consumer electronics are changing, that is very, very common. I mean, cell phones, for example, it used to be 2-year thing. Now it's basically a 1-year thing when people upgrade their phones.
And I don't disagree, but the point is, okay, so this November will be 3 years PS4's been out. We don't talk about the Neo. They don't talk about PS5. Then a whole nother year goes by. It's 2017, November. We're now 4 years into the life cycle. Sony comes out at PSX that December and announces the PS5, releasing in 2018, 5 years then after the PS4 had launched. Is that out of the realm of normality?
I still think that's too early. I think the way that...
Is it too early if they're going to release a PS4 Neo here in 2016 or 2017?
No, so as long as they don't exclude anyone that's bought it previous. And that's why I think doing these midlife cycles, if they do them, then they should just be there for the extent of keeping the current cycle going longer. So I'm saying if they do this, then the PS4 needs to survive to 2020, is what I'm saying. And
that's a long time. I mean, you know how tech moves. I mean, especially when they're competing with
that
PC
the PS3 came out. What was it, 2006?
Yes, but it's a whole different ball game now, Brian. You can't compare PS3 360 generation to this because the market's different. The main difference is PC. PC is affordable in a much more constant rate. We know how PC always having to constantly upgrade, stay with the times, that sort of thing. That's kind of been the downfall of PC because it was expensive. Now it's affordable. And now people, if they upgrade their PC, let's say every 2 years, it's not that ridiculous to do it from a cost standpoint.
I don't think,
so they're doing this to really counter and fight the good fight that is, competing with PC so that developers can keep their games at parity.
You're overstating that a little bit. I don't think the PC is quite to the point of the affordability of consoles. Because, if you in 2013 had bought when the PS4 came out in 2013, you could have got probably a PC for around somewhere between $400 or $500 that would run pretty similar to the PlayStation 4. But I can guarantee you now that games that are coming out with that, if you try to put it on that same PC, would not look as good on that PC as it does on the PS4. Because it's not as optimized.
Yes, but I'm saying is if you put a length between generations like the PS3 did to the PS4, right? You're going 6-7 years. The PC market's literally off and running a million times more between those 6-7 years now at this rate. It moves at a much more constant than it used to. And that's what I'm saying.
Fair. No, I see it from your perspective too. I'm just talking for myself from a consumer. If the games continue to look the way they do and they only get even a little bit better over the course of the next few years, because we don't even know where the potential of this console has really gone yet. I know,
but that's what I'm saying. We're on year 3 right now. We hit the 3-year anniversary in November. You give it another year in year 4 when they announce the PS5, and then they come out with it in year 5. Is that really out of the realm of?
That's way too. That's just. I would.
No, but is it? You literally just said yourself. Cell phones are every year or every 2 years.
That's big, but it doesn't make your old phone. Like
it does. Yes, it does. It's every 2 years now. You get the iPhone, whatever, and then the S.
It doesn't make your old phone obsolete. I'm just saying, if you want the newest and greatest thing, you can get it every year, and that's what I'm saying. That they come out with an iteration of the PS4.5 at the 3-year mark. Then cool. If you want to get it, go ahead and do it. But it doesn't mean that your old device is going to stop working. Versus if they release a PS5, the definition of the next generation of consoles is that the old one stops getting those games. And I will be very, very, very upset with PlayStation if they, in 4 or 5 years of the life cycle of the PS4, say, here's the PS5, and there's going to be games coming out on it that you can't play on the PS4.
Right. And also I want to give a quick shout out to DJ Jackson. Thank you for the follow. I don't know if your name, the Penguin, popped up on screen. I don't know why it's not working right now. It's getting ridiculous because it's supposed to be. But anyway, Yeah, I don't know. This whole midlife.
I think it's time to move on from it, but I think it's
the
been
midlife console
exciting.
thing's odd. I mean, like, because both PlayStation or Xbox are both doing it.
Because
We can't
we could
really.
talk to the end of times of speculation of what they're going to do next, but the fact of the matter is we just need to wait and see what they're going to do
No, I know,
next.
and that's why I'm transitioning back into the conference here. It's a matter of, the Scorpio and the Neo, they're both very much doing the exact same thing. So it's not like one or the other. This is great. This is bad. I think Scorpio and the way Microsoft handled it, it was well done. I think the video was very intriguing. I think it gets people excited, and the way they talk about this is part of the Xbox One family. It's in addition to what you already love, and this is for the premium luxury item buying gamer. But like we said, the negative in our opinion was they announced it way too early. So who knows what it is? Mom in the chat, Stephanie. But I mean, that's what it is there. I mean, we'll call that as the topic of the show, going into just, about the Xbox Scorpio, the PlayStation 4K, Neo, whatever you want to call it. So everybody, make sure you leave your comments and questions and hit us up on Twitter or email me at penguinragebiz@gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts on these new consoles. And would you pick them up? Is it too soon? What's the deal there? Let us know. So just going back into the Xbox conference though. So now we'll get into the games. So, the big one I think you want to just probably start off with was Gears of War. What did you think of the new Gears of War?
I mean, I lost interest in Gears of War once Gears 3 was announced, and then they had one in between, Judgment or whatever. So it looked good. I mean, it looked graphic-wise, it looked pretty good. And I think it'll be a fun game, and that's maybe what will bring people back into it. I don't know. But for me, it's like, I think it's run its course, at least in my opinion. And I played the living shit out of Gears 1 and 2, but I was like, cool. I mean, we knew this was coming. We knew that it was there, but it was not. And that's, again, just my personal thought. I know there's a lot of people that are still devout fans of it, but I don't think it'll meet the expectations of, at least sales-wise, is maybe what Microsoft thinks it'll do. Because of a lot of games that have been talked about, that was not the one that stuck out a lot from E3.
Yeah, I mean, I think I gotta agree. I mean, I think the new Gears looks really good. I think it. Oh shit! What is going on? Oh, sorry guys, apologies. I messed up the video there. I think it looks really good. The problem with it is it was to be expected. If they didn't show Gears of War, there'd be a problem there. And I mean, I think the game looked great, but it also didn't blow me away. They didn't really do anything that really was groundbreaking from visually it looks great, but it looks kind of where you would expect it or want it to be. I remember just seeing the first press conferences back in the day of Gears 1 and Gears 2 and how blown away we were with it. I wasn't getting that feeling from it, right? Where it wasn't this drastic change. It looked like Gears of War, which is a good thing. I love Gears of War. Like you said, Gears 1 and 2 loved. 3 was okay. And then what was the other one?
Judgment,
just not, it was a fall off. And, well, it's very similar to the way God of War was going. But we'll talk about God of War and how it came out of left field for Sony's conference, and I think Gears looks good. I mean, we're looking at it right now. The game looks awesome. It visually looks fun, but it doesn't strike me as different. Maybe it was just the section they showed.
And that can be held true. I mean, Uncharted 4, in regards to it being different to the previous Uncharted, was it really? No, all that much. But they have the huge advantage of that Uncharted, a lot of people don't really play it for the gameplay. I mean, it's good, solid gameplay, but the reason people play it is for that fun storyline that comes with it. And with Gears of War, I could agree that was definitely part of it for Gears 1 and 2, but like, I don't think a lot of people see Gears of War and they're like, oh yeah, I'm really interested to seeing what's happening in this world really anymore.
Yeah, and it's one of those where the story, it's intriguing that now it's I think you're playing as Marcus's son, right? So it's intriguing as to where it's going to go, the new characters and everything like that. But Will it live up to it? I don't know. We'll see. It's in the hands of a new dev, so it got sold from Epic, and like I said, I'll pick it up because I like Gears, and we'll see where that goes. But it's a matter of what will it become, and is it from the press conference standpoint though? It didn't blow me away. I'll just leave it at that. Transitioning on. What else stood out at Microsoft press conference? I mean, they showed
there was surprisingly a lot of the Japanese RPG games were kind of shown off at that one.
Well, they showed Scalebound, which
Scalebound didn't look interesting at all.
It looked really good last press conference. I was really excited for it. Whatever the demo was they showed during this one, I did not like it. I'll just leave it at that. The game just, especially because we've been seeing all sorts of Final Fantasy 15 stuff recently, and Final Fantasy 15 just looked so much better than this. So I don't know. It's one of those where I say this a lot right now, but it's going to be a wait and see game to see really what that game's going to be out. It's a new IP. I think Microsoft's banking pretty heavily into it, trying to capture that audience. I just see it falling flat, unfortunately. I don't know. That's a hard one to say. They showed Halo Wars 2.
Oh, yeah. That one
Halo Wars 2 looked awesome. Looks really, really good. Visually looks amazing. Once again, a nice RTS with that constant thing available on Xbox One and Windows 10. So this is probably another subtopic, but I'll keep it brief. Let's be honest here. I'm not playing a game like fucking Halo Wars 2 on the Xbox. I'm going to play that with a mouse and keyboard on PC. If they make that available to me, I'm playing an RTS on the PC. So then
they did say mouse and keyboard compatibility should be available on the Xbox One soon.
Should be.
I mean, Phil Spencer said it.
Should be. They said that keyword, and everybody I remember it. Everybody was like looking around like, should be. Okay, well, anyway, regardless, if you're going to do it that way, then why don't you just play it on your computer?
I mean, some people, maybe they can't play it on their computers.
Well, okay, but this gets into the larger topic, okay? All these games, the Xbox One first-party studio games are coming to PC. So Gears of War, Forza, Halo Wars 2. What else was shown there from that perspective? First party. I know I'm missing one.
Say that one more time.
Gears of War, Forza, Halo Wars.
For like first-party games.
Regardless.
No, I don't think there's anything else.
The point is they're coming to PC. Now, they're doing a cool feature, which I like. It's continue on where you play, right? So if you go to PC and then you jump to your Xbox, it'll save it over the cloud. You buy it one time digitally. You get both SKUs, both PC and Xbox. So there's pretty good value there, right? So for people where, like some of us, where we do have an Xbox in one room and a PC in another room, you can play it at the higher resolution if it's optimized by the developers for PC to run really well and play it on PC with a mouse and keyboard, and then you can continue on with your Xbox. But my thing is, what is truly the reason to own an Xbox at this point? Because at this point, with the catalog that's on PlayStation, you get your first-party exclusive games on PlayStation. You got your your third-party games. You got your Xbox first-party and exclusive games on Xbox, and the third-party games that are available on everything. And then you got PC with Steam and Blizzard and everybody coming out with their games that are exclusively on PC or the third-party games on PC. Now, essentially, Microsoft has eliminated exclusivity of Xbox-only games to where now those games will be on PC. So my thought is, why would I go buy a $400 device? I know it's cheaper now, but let's go back to the older price, $400 or $500 for that matter, Xbox, where you really own an Xbox for the exclusive games, and then if they pull you into that ecosystem, you then play your third-party games like Madden, like NBA, Call of Duty on the Xbox while signing up for Xbox Live Gold, getting the content, TV, everything like that, because you're on there for the exclusive games, and whether you're a console gamer or not. Now, essentially, that can be eliminated to where I could own a PS4 to have the console experience for those exclusive games like Uncharted, I just say Uncharted at the top of mind, but Last of Us and other first party games, Gran Turismo. And then I own a PC, so I can play the exclusive Xbox games such as Gears of War and such as Forza. And then third party, I can play on both, whether it's on Steam or whether it's on PlayStation. So really, and of course, don't forget Nintendo. The NX is coming out, or the Wii U, and you have the Nintendo for the Nintendo exclusive titles. I mean, is there really a need to own an Xbox anymore? Beyond the question, the point is, if you're an only console gamer, then I totally get it. The only way you'll be able to play those are on console. But
it's beyond the flavor of that. If someone just has a laptop that they use strictly for work and for school or whatever, then it is still cheaper. You can get an Xbox for $250.
Right.
That's the point.
But
so I'm not saying.
But to me, Microsoft's then losing sales.
Yeah, I mean, no, by all means, they're going to lose sales because of that factor. But I'm just saying there is still a market for it. Does it mean it's not going to do quite what I think they're looking for it to do? But there's still people that it pertains to. But yes, it is unquestionable that there will be a market of people. Like if I didn't already have an Xbox, I would by all means not get one now because the games that I would be interested in playing on it are coming to PC.
Okay, so that's my question. So you own a gaming PC, you own an Xbox, you own a PS4, and do you have a Wii U?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so I have all that as well. So between the two of us, if Microsoft out of the gate day one was to say, okay, all of our exclusive first party games are on PC, would you have bought an Xbox?
I don't know. I mean,
okay, then better yet, when the Scorpio comes out next year, are you going to buy the Scorpio?
No, the main reason for that is that I don't want to spend $800 on a device that I won't have really much use for because I don't have a 4K TV.
And because you have a PC that can run things just as powerful.
Not at all. I mean, I think you're overestimating or underestimating the cost of getting a PC that's going to be compatible of doing 4K gaming.
Oh yeah, I know that you're looking at a $1,500 device. I understand that PC gaming, especially to try and optimize those top specs, is not a cheap feat. But right now it's really you own an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Wii, whatever it is. You buy those consoles because either A, you're a console gamer and you don't have a gaming PC, which is completely fine, and that's a good thing. That's a thriving business, and that's normally how I am. I normally play on console. But if you do happen to have a gaming PC, which is a growing market, the numbers don't lie. It's rapidly growing year over year because PC components are cheaper and cheaper and easier to understand. With the vast catalog that is Steam and exclusive titles on PC, it's, is this one of those things whereas I could save myself $400, $300, whatever the price of the device is, and then have my PC, my PS4, and my Nintendo, let's say the NX, and I play my PS4 for my exclusive titles and third party, and they pull me into the ecosystem. Nintendo pulls me into the ecosystem, or I get the Nintendo first party games, and then the PC, I can play the Xbox games and the vast catalog that is Steam. Because I don't know. It's hard to say because if you own an Xbox, before the point was you buy an Xbox for the exclusive titles, and then they pull you into the ecosystem, right? Because then the third party games are either on both PlayStation and Xbox, and you choose whichever platform you buy them on. So then Microsoft would either get a cut of that money or Sony would get a cut of that money, and you would get your money from Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus. And, and one would kind of favor over the others. That's just how most people would be. But now with PC, you essentially can eliminate one of those options.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's going to be a case of they are going to lose sales because of it. And I think they are aware of that.
Yeah.
But in full honesty, I think just as a position of Microsoft as a company, the amount of everything that they're doing for the company right now is all about Windows 10. And I think they're realizing that they've lost the battle currently against the PlayStation 4. Not to say that they're not still in it. Like, I think by all means they're still in it. Their sales are still up year over year versus the 360. But I think they're starting to realize that, hey, we're still Microsoft, and our biggest seller and our biggest thing is Windows. And if we can get, even if people don't buy an Xbox One, if they still get a PC and they put Windows 10 on it, that's still a sale for Microsoft that didn't go to Apple or didn't go to for a Chromebook. So it's still money that's going in their pocket.
Right.
So it's still, in the end, they're still getting a chunk of the money and they're still getting paid.
It's a portion of the money, though, because then they're losing those people to the Xbox ecosystem.
Sure, but I mean, they're still, if games are still being released on console, they're still getting a cut of the money that goes into every game, and they're still getting the huge amount of money that the developers have to pay them to put the game on their console. So it's not like they're just straight up.
That's not how the market works, Brian.
Sure, and I'm not saying that's where all of their money comes from, but if a game is sold for Windows 10 or if it's sold for Xbox One, I think that's irrelevant to them because they're going to get the same cut.
Yes, but the point is now, if I buy a game on an Xbox game, Gears of War on PC, and then Madden comes out, I'm buying it on Steam, and that means now Steam's getting the portion of that money, and Microsoft gets none of that money.
That's a different battle. I mean, the way they're going to get their content on Windows 10. I mean, the only way they're going to be able to fight that is if they make the experience to buy a game through the Xbox Store or something on your PC is easier than doing it on Steam. Because that's why everyone uses Steam. I mean, in regards to it being actual overall software.
Let's be honest. Can they go to battle with Steam?
I don't know. I mean, if they do something, if you buy it through the Xbox Store and you get 10% off, everyone would.
I mean, potentially, but we've seen Steam kill other things like Origin, sure. And it's easier just to put it on that platform. In all honesty,
I'm just trying to be optimistic on the standpoint of looking at them, and that I'm sure every decision they have made is not the smartest decision and going to be the best that it turns out for them. But you can say the opposite too, that maybe it will work out well. Maybe I mean, Microsoft as a company is a huge company, and Xbox is a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of that company. And if they think that doing something like this will help the sales and their proportion of their company that makes them more money, then I don't really blame them for doing it, I guess.
No, I know. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they play that out. And, I don't know as a consumer myself where I will land, because maybe it will remain the convenience and ease of a Xbox, and we'll go from there. But nonetheless, Halo Wars 2 looks really good. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that's true.
Enjoying the RTS.
I'm excited. I liked the first one. It was not enough content in the first one, and unfortunately it was just on the console, didn't come to PC. But that is one, I have not played a good RTS in a long time, and I hope they do it right. And if they do it right, then that's a game I could definitely see myself putting a lot of hours into.
Yep. No, I agree. And then we mentioned Forza. They showed off Forza Horizon 3. I think it looks good. The Forza Horizon games are fun. I'm just almost to the point, though, where they got to stop putting out a Forza game every year. It's, I don't know. To me, it's getting to the point where they got to slow it down and milk it a little bit more, where the time in between where people got to want it.
They're selling games. I guess that's what the fight is to it. And I can tell you that Gran Turismo, maybe in Europe, I'm sure it probably still does, but at least in the US, it does not hold the same name value that it used to. I mean, I know at least of my friends, all of them know Forza Motorsports a lot more than they know Gran Turismo.
I think the numbers would lie, though. I think Gran Turismo 5 was the best-selling game on PS3, or first-party exclusive game.
No, like I'm saying, I think a majority of that is in Europe. And
well, sales are sales regardless of where they come from.
Sure, and I'm not disagreeing.
Still outsells the Forza franchise.
Name recognition, at least from what I've noticed from people my age and here in the United States, I feel like Forza has more name recognition now from Gran Turismo, and I feel like a majority of that is because they've done a pretty good job of actually pushing out pretty good games every year.
No, and I agree. I mean, I love both series. I love Gran Turismo. I love Forza. Gran Turismo is obviously more of a sim. Forza's got a bit more of the customization and arcadey aspects to it, especially with Horizon. But both are solid games, and I do really enjoy the Forza franchise where it's come. So that's good. We're probably missing something big from Microsoft. For some reason, my brain's not clicking to it, but I think we'll move on from them now. I think the main topics we want to touch on anyway was the Scorpio and the Xbox One S and the Windows 10 conversation, because that's really where the topic of the stream is going to be now. So we'll move on to Ubisoft. We'll try and go through it pretty quickly, even though they had a 2-hour fucking conference, which was ridiculously way too long.
Only thing that interested me a lot. I mean, there's things that look cool, but I think for the sake of not going overly long. I mean, the biggest one that it stood out to me was the new South Park game.
Yeah, the new South Park looks great. The fractured butthole looks hilarious. It looks to be very much what we expect
And
from
and,
the South Park series with new added enhancements
and a question
for
I
the
have
new
for
generation.
you over that. Have you ever heard of a game that if you pre-order it, you get the prequel or the previous game for free?
I feel like this has been done before. Nothing's
But
coming
it's
in
not
my
a
mind
common
right
thing.
away. I think it's a great deal, especially
Yeah.
because it's coming from
Oh,
last gen to the newer gen.
seriously, that is a game that I would have spent. I might have spent $60 to get the previous version again to play it again. That is a game that I enjoyed so much. I might have actually paid another $60 to get the Stick of Truth again, along with paying $60 to get the Fractured Butthole. But
Right.
I mean, I don't know whose decision it was, but I like to tell myself that I think that was Trey Parker and Matt Stone saying like, "Nah, we like people and we want to give this game away to them for free." But when I first read that, I thought I actually had misread it because I was like, "That is insanely awesome." They're just
It's a
literally
sales
giving
driver. I mean, it makes sense and it's smart. So, South Park coming out this year looks great. So kudos to Ubisoft and those guys for making that game happen again. To quickly go down Ubisoft, they brought lots of good games. The games look really good. Their conferences was too long-winded and too much talking with the interviews. But
Watch Dogs 2.
Watch Dogs 2, I think a lot of people are walking lightly on that one because
Yeah.
the first one did not live up to the hype and the expectations.
Yep.
However, I think this new one looks really good. I think the new city of San Francisco looks really vibrant and pretty spectacular. And hopefully they learned a lot from the first one just to make it more of an accessible, more non-repetitive game.
Yeah, and to not lie on how it's going to look.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it looks good. The other one that stood out, and a lot of people were talking positively out of it from E3 from playing it, was Ghost Recon Wildlands. I don't have the date in front of me. Is that this year or is it early next year?
Let me look it up for you.
You look it up real quick. But yeah, Ghost Recon Wildlands actually looks beautiful. A nice open world environment. Very team driven, working together to make the game happen. I think it looks awesome.
So Google's telling me March 7th, 2017.
Okay, that sounds right. So yeah, so Ghost Recon coming out early next year. God, February and March of next year is gonna be fucking chaos.
Yeah, I almost feel like now it feels like the front of the year is more heavy loaded than the end of the year, just because the end of the year is filled with big third party games. But all of these, I mean, I know Tom Clancy Ghost Recon is a third party game, but I feel like these smaller market, or maybe not smaller market, but smaller name recognition games, then it's not your Call of Duties, it's not your whatever, the ones that come out almost every year and take up an entire week in the fall. I feel like a lot of these, especially first-party games, are just all coming out now in February and March,
Right?
Because they're not competing against these big, huge games that take weeks to get out of first place.
Yep. No, I mean it's interesting to see. I mean, what's going to slip out of the first half of next year? We also got to wait and see on that. But Ghost Recon Wildlands looks really good. So they did that. They also showed off For Honor, which also looks very intriguing and interesting. I think it's still too early to really give judgment on that. I don't know if they gave a date on that either.
It's taken with a grain of salt, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, it looks like Rise all over again. Looks intriguing, but we'll have to wait and see. We already mentioned South Park. Blah 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 blah. They showed off a new IP that's all actually coming out this year called Steep. Looks interesting. I gotta say, it's kind of a spin on not snowboarding games, but like action sports games in general, where they're on the mountain and it's fully open world and you kind of just go and do what you want. So it's like action sports plus GoPro on steroids, had a baby fucked, and here's a game. So I think it's probably more experimental than anything, showing off the engine and the stuff that Ubisoft has. But it looks like I think a lot of people can have some fun with it, and the creation stuff will be fun. So we'll see where that comes out on that. I'm probably not a day one purchase for me, but if it picks up, definitely one I can swing back to. Anything from the Ubisoft that I'm forgetting? I'm probably forgetting something good. They showed off some VR stuff.
Yeah, I tried to look at anything that we're missing, but I think for the most part we've nailed most of it.
Yeah, they showed off some VR stuff like Star Trek and the Far Cry or Eagle Flight. Looks interesting, looks good. Just more VR content, which is awesome. But that pretty much sums up Ubisoft. I mean, they showed off like Just Dance and a new what's the BMX like freestyle game.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah, I mean good content out of there. Some games coming out this year, some games coming out next year. So we'll see what Watch Dogs holds. I think it looks good. And then the last conference, which I think really took most people by surprise in many different ways, was Sony's conference.
For how good it was.
It's not just how good it was, and we'll get into why it was so good. It's a matter of it was very different than the typical E3 press conference and very different to what Sony always does at E3.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is that first and foremost, everyone always expects Sony's conferences to be hour and 30 minutes, hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours. They always have a long conference. They do a lot of talking in addition to the games. They talk about their content from TV shows. They talk about VR. They talk about hardware and peripherals. They talk about whatever it is, right? You know, in the past, they've talked about powers and, you know, stuff like that. But no, literally, this conference just started off with no one walking out on stage, no montage video, where it always used to start with this big dubstep video montage trailer. It was literally just the lights dimmed and then the orchestra, which was a live orchestra in the auditorium, started playing. And then all of a sudden it's a game that pops up, and it was a boy. Kind of looked like Horizon Zero Dawn to me, the way the atmosphere was at first. And I was like, oh, we're seeing something completely different from Horizon. And all of a sudden the camera panned, and there it is, Kratos from God of War, looking old as fuck with a massive beard. And the crowd just went fucking wild, because that's literally how Sony just started their conference. They just fucking didn't even say a word. It was epic music with a live orchestra, and then God of War coming out, which, first and foremost, rumors were talking about it, but we didn't know or expect it, much like Gears of War. We knew Gears of War because they talked about Gears of War last year. But this came out of nowhere, and then it was live gameplay on stage, and the game just looked phenomenal from a graphical standpoint. But I think the bigger point is God of War, and this is kind of the complete opposite of what I was saying with Gears of War. God of War, they completely are rebooting it. I mean, that's why it's just called God of War. The character, Kratos is there, but you're there with his son and the relationship between them. It's a different environment. Now you're in Nordic setting, and you can tell that they're trying to make Kratos a person with emotion, with character, and the relationship between him and his son. And even the camera angle was different. The weapon was different. He didn't have his regular chains, and it was different, but it was still God of War. And I think it was the reboot that the series truly needed. And that's why I think it took a lot of people out of left field positively. People were like, wow, they were not expecting that from what they were going to see from God of War. And that's why I loved it.
Yeah, I have played some of the previous God of War games, but never really cared at all about Kratos as a character, and more so even about the story. It was just a fun game that looked nice. This looks like, I mean, obviously it's not, but this looks like Naughty Dog's God of War was what I kind of got out of it. And I think they're seeing the success of the type of games, and I think they're going to go for it. And I think they'll have a lot more of a dynamic character, and I think it'll be a lot more interesting.
I agree. I think Sony kind of nailed it on the head there, or you nailed it on the head there with, I mean, it has that almost similar look and feel to the Naughty Dog game in the world. And that's just because the way the visuals look, the type of environment they're in with the snowy setting and the more forestry world, and the relationship with your son. It's kind of like The Last of Us there. But that's a good thing, because I think Sony's identified that there is a place for these single-player, story-driven, narrative games, whether it be The Last of Us or Uncharted. You're seeing it now with, obviously, God of War, Days Gone, we'll talk about later, and Horizon Zero Dawn. Fuck Detroit. I mean, the list goes on. So Sony understands that, where there's a place for these multiplayer games like Destiny or The Division, but it's not the end of the world like some people predicted, that where single-player games would no longer ever exist. Yeah. So I think the new God of War looks spectacular. I think Sony nailed it on the head, and it was a nice surprise. before we get into the next game, even we'll just give Sony kudos where not only was the conference different, it was different to where for the entirety of the conference, I think Sean Layden, the CEO, came out at the beginning, in the middle, and then at the end, and just spoke for like 2 minutes. And then Andrew House came in for 2 minutes just to introduce Hideo Kojima, which that's it. And that was all the talking they had. It was just game. It wasn't indie games. It wasn't Vita games. It wasn't peripherals. It wasn't powers and PlayStation Plus. It wasn't numbers. It wasn't sales. It wasn't hardware. It was literally AAA game. Yep. And it looked, the games just looked fucking phenomenal. I got to hand it to Sony. And this is not me coming out here as a Sony roots. It truly was from a conference standpoint, and that's why most of the other video game websites and everything were putting it out there, that Sony just nailed the perfect conference, if you will. Not even just the content. It's just how they did it. And from boom, the pace.
Yep, exactly. And I think the live orchestra was what really kind of put the cherry on top of that. It was like, this is... we're here about games. We're going to show you our games, but we're going to mix it up a little bit and kind of make sure you know that it's an E3 experience. And we're going to have this live audience, live orchestra that plays not just sounds like they did at the beginning, introducing everything, but actually played over some of the trailers and played over some gameplay. Yep. That was really cool.
Yeah. So moving on from God of War, I would probably jump all around here now, but the other ones that stood out to me were obviously Horizon Zero Dawn. We got some information about Horizon the week before E3, so that's now pushed back to February of 2017, so back into that first quarter of 2017. They showed off new gameplay. The game looks beautiful, looks phenomenal. It's kind of to be expected, so I'm glad Sony didn't sit on it way too long. They played the gameplay for 5 minutes, and they moved on because the game already has had its heyday. People are excited for it. They're hyped for it. The game looks great.
Yep.
Then, we'll dive into Detroit, the next game from Quantum Break, and I'll let you start with that since you're a big Quantum Break or Quantic Dream, Jesus, Quantic Dream fan.
Yeah, it was everything that I kind of glad that they're doing in regards to the new game, because Heavy Rain, in regards to Heavy Rain versus Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain was definitely, I think, the better one. And at least in regards to being critically acclaimed, it was much higher up there on a Metacritic, things like that. And the reason for that, it was a lot more dynamic in a story, and it held a lot more of the qualities, I think, of what people liked for a Quantic Dream game, which is the whole, there's 10,000 different paths you can go about. Versus with Beyond Two Souls, I liked Beyond Two Souls a lot. Might even say I actually enjoyed playing the game more than Heavy Rain, but that might have been partially to do with the age I was at when I was playing the two games. But it did lack some of the big life or big decisions, I guess you could make in the game as compared to Heavy Rain. And I think what they're doing with this next one is they're kind of finding a good middle ground of that. They're keeping their craziness, their crazy awesome storylines that have a bunch of plot twists and things like that, and telling a really great story like they have for the last two games, but they're really making sure that they go back to the roots of what made Heavy Rain a great one, which was that there was 15 different paths that could happen in any single moment of the game, and that trailer showed it off so well. Just that, like...
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing to show. Right?
It's hard to show a game like that because you don't want to show all of the paths, because then it gives away certain thing. But I think it was the scene that they set up, and I'd be interested to see actually if that scene will be in the final copy of the game. But the scene, I think, was something that maybe it is. I don't know how pivotal it'll be in the plot or whatnot, but I could see that as being almost just like an introductory thing that you do in the beginning of the game that kind of sets everything up, and it shows off so well what you're going to expect for the next bit of that.
Yeah, and I think we'll give a shout out to the guys over at Kinda Funny. Colin Moriarty got to play the game and see it behind closed doors after the press conference, and he said that it really is. There's all these different ways and alternatives to the way you do it. It's all based on time and how quickly you react and everything. So where every outcome truly is different based on your decisions. he also said, much like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, or Heavy Rain for sure, where there's multiple characters, lead characters, and it's actually kind of like the androids are the good people, and you play as the androids, or it appears you play as the androids. You do here in this this demo. That once the character's dead, it's dead, and you are now moving on to a new character into the game, which all part of the larger story that it falls under. So, seems very interesting. Like I said, I loved Heavy Rain. I liked Beyond Two Souls not as much as Heavy Rain, but I don't think Beyond Two Souls should have got as much of the negativity as it did. But I also see why it did. So I'm excited for this. I think it looks great.
I agree 100%. I think that is something that every time Quantic Dream makes a game, I think they take a little bit of a risk, because if it just doesn't sit right with people, then it's not going to do well. But it seems like they've kind of got it right with this one, and I only feel better about it after, like you were saying, Colin Moriarty. It sounds like some other people that got to see a little bit more of the game behind closed doors, all they could say when they were walking out was, wow, this game looks fantastic. And I think the trailer was absolutely perfect to show off the style that is Quantic Dream game.
Yep. Now we'll dive in pretty quickly here into two games that kind of just came out of left field that I don't think anybody was expecting. First and foremost, oh my God, exclusive Spider-Man on PS4, and not just exclusive on PS4. It's done by Insomniac.
Yep.
So these are the guys that did Ratchet and Clank, most recently Sunset Overdrive on Xbox, and then of course the Resistance series. So we've struggled with good Spider-Man games, and we've struggled with bad Spider-Man games over the years. And I think this is a great testament from Marvel and Disney to put the IP that is as big as Spider-Man in the hands of a well-respected, good developer such as Insomniac that is going to put the time and the effort, and Sony's funding it, I believe, hence the exclusivity, to where they'll have the resources to make this game truly great. I mean, we've seen, I don't think it's based on a movie, but it'll probably come out in 2017. I think that's when the Spider-Man standalone movie is supposed to come out.
Did say that it's going to be separate. It's not going to be tied into the new Spider-Man story.
So, but they'll time it with the release of the movie. I mean, that only makes sense from a marketing standpoint. But that doesn't take it away from it. It's not like, oh, make the game around the movie and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you see they're pulling elements from different Spider-Man generations. I think that is just awesome. A great testament to the fans, and kudos to Insomniac for landing that. Jesus Christ. Like, that's just phenomenal. The other thing that really came out of left field, and I almost shit myself when it fucking happened, was like, we seriously, there's no way anybody would have predicted this, but we all know the fiasco that Hideo Kojima went through with Metal Gear Solid 5, and Metal Gear Solid 5 being the amazing game that it is, the relationship with Konami and all the bullshit that happened after the fact, even up to the end of the year last year in December, so just a few months ago, where they wouldn't even let him accept his award at the Game Awards.
God fucking damn it.
So we knew Kojima, he came out and said he signed a deal with Sony. We knew Kojima said he was working on something brand new, exclusive for Sony. But we know how Kojima works, and we didn't think anything was anywhere near, and it probably still isn't. But the fact of the matter is, there was no way I was expecting Kojima to be on Sony's stage this year. I was like, maybe next year. But there it is. I mean, Kojima came out and literally unveiled Death Stranding, which we don't know what it is. We don't know what it's about. All I know is it was very much Kojima with that eerie, beautiful-looking visuals, little details that are phenomenal, and the music and the sound just added to the elements that are spectacular. And, of course, there it is, Norman Reedus as well, just to add the icing on the cake. So I think that was a huge shocker. I think that blew people away, and I'm only excited to know what it is.
Yep. I think I actually had a buddy that from in the physics department here that I haven't talked to in a few weeks, but he messaged me a couple days after E3 was over, and the first thing he just said is like, "What?" He's like, "I would have expected nothing different from Hideo Kojima for him to come out, show off this game where everyone is like, what the fuck just happened?" And everyone has no idea what it's about, but everyone is hyped out of their mind for it. He
Yep.
was like, we know nothing. We don't even know what type of game it is. I mean, we know Norman Reedus is in it, and he has a fetus. Norman Reedus and his fetus. That's basically it. And there's these floating people, but we have absolutely no idea about what this game is. And you know what? Every person that saw it was like, holy fuck, this is just Sony handed Hideo Kojima a blank check, and he's making some weird, freaky shit with his friends now.
And that's really all it takes. I mean, honestly, that's what gets the hype train going, and another reason to, that Sony understands this. Like, this is a reason to own a PlayStation. Yep. So, I mean, kudos to them again for making that happen. And for having Kojima on stage. I think that's awesome. Yeah. And to go quickly into it, we had some VR stuff shown off. I think VR looked really good. I think the way they complemented the conference with VR was also very good. They gave an exact release date, October 13th. So it's coming. It's a thing. We already know the prices. The pre-orders have already happened. It's happening. I mean, I think they dropped some pretty good bombs. One is not even tied to VR, but it is with VR this time around, but a great, once again, an exclusive, which is huge. Oh, that's one we forgot on Xbox was the, what's the zombie game?
No, Dead Rising.
Yeah,
it wasn't announced as an exclusive.
I think they came out after the fact and said that it's a year exclusivity, just like the Tomb Raider.
I see. Okay.
But anyway, so Resident Evil 7 is a thing. It was announced. Capcom.
Oh yeah, that trailer was nice.
It looks really creepy. It looks like it's going back to the roots of Resident Evil. And it's in fucking VR, so prepare to shit yourself. I mean, I'm not going to really dwell on that any longer. It's Resident Evil 7. 4 was a spectacular game, and then 5 and 6 have had not to the love of what the community was expecting or wanting it to really be. So I think Capcom's really trying to go back to the roots here with 7, and obviously adding the VR element to it. It's going to be spectacular. So I'm ready to scare the shit out of some people, making them play that with the headset. Stephanie? And then what was the Farpoint? Farpoint, was that the first-person shooter game they showed on VR?
Yeah, they didn't really show much in the actual conference. It sounded like it was more on the E3 floor, but that was the one that like you're kind of like an astronaut, and it's supposed to be a VR first-person shooter game.
It looked really good. So
yeah, it looks really cool, and people that got their hands on it said they were really impressed.
Yeah, I think the VR stuff is being handled quite well. It's still, we've said it with many titles, but I mean, this is another reason to say it's going to be a wait and see game to see really where this goes and evolves to. I'm getting one day one. I've been sold on it. I love it.
Yeah, I think I will too. I mean, I don't know if you saw Silver on his Snap story went to a GameStop and tried it out, and Silver was one that I know hasn't been sold on it completely, and he came out of it. He was like, if I can get the $400, he's like, I'm getting it.
Oh yeah, no, and I agree. That's how VR is. It really is something you need to try to truly believe. So, that was good. And then Sony showed off some third-party stuff. Obviously, Call of Duty. I think the new Call of Duty trailer they showed actually was really good. Yeah. It looked way better than what they did when they first unveiled the game. Because at first I thought this was a VR game, and the way the head was moving around, it kind of looked like it was in VR. So maybe that's a big secret that's going to come later on. I don't know. But it looked much better than what we've seen in the past. But it's Call of Duty. Then they showed Crash Bandicoot. Sort of what people were wanting, not what people were wanting. They're going to remaster Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3, I believe. So they'll make the classics come to PS4 remastered, which is cool. It's more of a test, I would assume, to see how the market reacts and purchases it. And then Crash Bandicoot coming to Skylanders, which that's probably the only way they can convince Activision to actually do something like that. Yep. So, but nonetheless, it's a cool fan service. I think that's pretty neat. And I think the last game I'm going to talk about really was Days Gone, which is the game created by Sony Bend. So what are your thoughts on Days Gone? I
think the trailer looked great. It looks exciting. It looks like it's going to be another great story based game with a game like that where it's going to be kind of zombie. It's a shooter. They're not going to break any new grounds with gameplay. I mean, The Last of Us didn't break any new grounds with gameplay, but it came out and had this fantastic storyline that was complemented by good gameplay. So if they can do that, awesome. I think it looks great. I think the demo they did at the end needed to be taken with a grain of salt because it's an E3 demo, and E3 demos sometimes just don't look good because I don't even think they had the AIs turned on, because there was times they would get inches away from him and wouldn't even react. So I think it was just something that I think they needed to fin it at the end or something, and it made it. I think it weakened it a little bit because it made it look like a little bit too simple of a game. But I think a lot of people recognize that it's an E3 demo and that you can't see the whole basis of the entire game based off of this little couple minute demo.
No, I'm very intrigued by this game because it's Sony Bend, which I'm fans of the Kind of Funny guys, so I listen to their stuff. But they've been in hiatus for quite some time now. They were doing a lot of ports. They did Uncharted Golden Abyss on the Vita, which was a great game. And I don't think they've done anything since then. So there's many years ago now. So this has kind of been top secret, hiding out in what it is. I get very much of the feels of The Last of Us with this game, just once again from the environment, the kind of the post-apocalyptic world, and how it's got that relationship driven. Whether you're with, I don't know who this girl is, but it shows like the biker gang, the motorcycle club. I think there's going to revolve a lot to do with that. And the world, I mean, just really what it is. I love the aesthetic. I love the feel of it. I'm really intrigued by this. I don't think this game's anywhere near being ready, from what we've been reading or hearing online, which is unfortunate. But I think that's okay because this year alone we've already got. Oh, we didn't talk about Last Guardian, but Last Guardian's a thing. They showed it. Yeah. Last Guardian's coming out. We got Gran Turismo coming out. You got Horizon in February, and then obviously God of War is probably holiday title next year. So this title is going to fit in that mix as well, along with everything else. So like you said, I agree with the way the gameplay showed versus the trailer. It is an E3 demo. Who knows how early of a build it was. I also heard some rumors that this game was not actually supposed to have gameplay done on stage. That's why the trailer was actually earlier on, and that they were actually supposed to end with a different game. And I mean, this is not coming from my line of works. This is what I saw on Twitter from, I don't know, it was Shinobi or one of the Tyducks or one of the insiders of the industry. Apparently, Rockstar was supposed to show off the next Red Dead at the end of the conference. And that was supposed to be the big mic drop ending moment, which would make a little bit of sense because it did seem odd how they unveiled Days Gone early in the conference, and all of a sudden they come back later and then played gameplay later on. So I don't know if that was planned or not. But if it wasn't planned and they scrambled to make that happen, then kudos to Sony Bend for making that shit happen, because that's not easy to do. Regardless, I think the game looks awesome. I think I'm just so intrigued by all these story-driven first-party titles on Sony. I think it looks very, very good. But overall, Sony's conference just kind of knocked it out of the park. I think there's a lot of great content there, and they just nailed the conference as itself. It was game.
Yeah, very much so. I think it was from beginning to end. It didn't feel like there was much time to breathe, in full honesty. I know there was a couple times they came out and said maybe 2 or 3 minutes of commentary, but as much as we all love the developers that go into this, and we honestly do like to hear from them and whatnot, a lot of times they are on the stage a little bit too long and it slows things down. And I think this was so well paced and that there was no interruptions. And I know it's the best they can do sometimes, but there was no need for a translator to come out at any point, which again slows things down sometimes. I started it and it genuinely felt like a movie I was watching at that. It was an hour and 15 minutes. And by the end of it, I was like, heart was going. I was actually had goosebumps for a lot of it.
That's cool. Because even when Kojima came out, he just spoke for 2 seconds and he just said, "I'm back." And everybody was like, "Yes."
Basically, yeah. Here's my
how
game.
cool was that?
I showed him again. He waved and he was like, "All right, I'll see you guys in 4 years when this game comes out."
Yeah, he was like, "Here's something I've been working on. You see me on Twitter going to all the Sony studios, learning their technologies." And He's like, I'm not in a prison cell in fucking Konami anymore. So, if I was to put a stamp on it, I think Sony was to take the cake this year.
I think so. Not to say that the others that I think, especially Microsoft, not to say that they had a bad conference. I think they did have a very strong conference. It was just one of those that Microsoft at the end of their conference was probably strutting around like, yeah, I think we got it this year, maybe. And then Sony just came out and was like, sorry, guys, we're still going to take it.
Exactly. I think Sony had Microsoft had a great conference. I think Ubisoft had a great conference. They just were too long. And Bethesda had a good conference, and EA was meh. But I mean, Sony just did it so different this time around too, with the orchestra, the setting, no talking bullshit, no content, no hardware. It was literally just boom, 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 and they kept it short and sweet. And I think they probably showed off the most games because they didn't talk. It was just literally hour and 20 minutes of just games. And AAA big games. There was no indie titles. There was no Vita. I don't know. I mean, I really didn't. After seeing Microsoft's conference, I was like, wow, that was a good conference. They really touched on a lot of stuff. Not necessarily the games were anything surprising. I think everything was to be expected, but it was a good conference. And then Sony was just out of left field. I mean, they just really mixed up the way the conference looks and feels. And that's what you got to do. They innovate. So good stuff there. But all right, guys, I think we're going to wrap up today's first episode of the Games Reloaded podcast as we are approaching our allotted time here. So, like I said, normally this is going to change a little bit over time. This is the very first one, so bear with us as we have technical issues in the way we handle ourselves on camera, the way we do questions and everything like that. And normally we'll end the show while taking some questions, whether that's on email, on Twitter, or in the Twitch chat. But because this is the first one, and I did not get any tweet or messages coming through from the Twitch chat, everybody was just kind of reacting with everything we were talking about. But obviously, this being the first one, we didn't have any emails or tweets. So with that being said, for future episodes, you can email us at penguinragebiz@gmail.com to send in your questions, or tweet at me, penguinragelive, on Twitter. Or, of course, just come out to the Twitch chat every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time to hang out, listen to the show live, and offer your feedback into the chat as we record it. So, again, thank you to everybody that is joining us on our first go-around. This has been good. Thank you, Brian, for being here and having a good conversation. And like we said, we're also going to have a bit more structure to the way the news is and the topics in the future. But this is just being kind of the E3 podcast, kickoff podcast. We're just having fun with it. So with that being said, everybody make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you watch it on YouTube, or look for us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, other streaming podcast services, anything like that. Subscribe to us on those places. So just search for the Games Reloaded podcast on those services such as iTunes or Google Play, and rate us if you can. And of course, come to Twitch, twitch.tv/penguinrage to watch it live every Monday night at 8 o'clock Central Time, and for other future live streams. Brian, what's your Twitter?
At bstevenson014.
There you go. B Stevenson, Stevenson's STEPHENSON 14. 014. Of course, Penguin Rage Live on Twitter. So thank you, everybody that was here with us on our first episode of the Games Reloaded podcast. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody that jumped into the live chat on Twitch as well to hang out with us as we recorded this first episode. But otherwise, if you're just now tuning in on YouTube or on iTunes or Google or other podcast places, thank you again as well. And we'll be back.